Ochieng to help us to understand what the bone of contention is with the Division of Revenue Bill. He's joining us from our City Center studio. Senator, thank you very much for joining us on KTN Prime. What is your problem as the Senate with the bill that the President has signed into law?
Well, we feel that the President, by enacting this law or this bill, has undermined the authority of the Senate, to the extent to which the Senate role is to protect the interests of the counties. We feel that in the division of revenue, the Senate has a central role to make sure that they bargain with the national government and make sure that the counties get what they should get. What happened, as it is now, is that the National Assembly decided that that is their role, reached a figure of 210 billion, which, if divided to the counties with the formula that we have seen, over 18 counties will have serious deficit, including Nairobi, which will have a deficit of 7 billion on the role that they have been given. Mombasa will have a deficit of 2 billion Kenya shillings. Nakuru will have a deficit of 2 billion. Eldoret and Kisumu the same. So essentially what we are saying is that when dividing the revenue, the Senate is the body that protects the interest, because there is no other interest of the county government other than to get sufficient revenue to run their affairs. And I think this is a conspiracy between Parliament and the executive.
Senator, you say you think this is a conspiracy between Parliament and the executive. In just a few minutes ago, there has been a new dimension to this, Senator. The President has issued a statement. In it, he says, in assenting to the bill, he was pursuing national interest with a view to safeguarding the integrity and timelines of the budgetary process. Does he make sense to you?
No, it does not. Because the Senate dealt with this thing almost 2 weeks ago. More than 14 days ago. And they knew, immediately Parliament disagreed with us, there is a provision in which 2 speakers could have appointed equal numbers of their membership to negotiate this contentious issue. And I think 2 days or 1 day is enough for them to have arrived at a certain figure, because in the event that the mediation fails, then the bill fails. And nobody would want to see that bill fail, because then the nation will not be funded. So he delayed until almost when he had to now sign, because there was no more time left. So we cannot blame it on the Senate. We blame it squarely on the 2 institutions of the National Assembly and the executive.
Senator, let me put you a little bit on the spot. In assenting to this bill, the President may have taken Chapter 8 of the new Constitution into consideration. Article 95, subsection 4, says the National Assembly determines the allocation of national revenue between the levels of government, that is the central government and the county government. Article 96, subsection 3, says the Senate determines the allocation of national revenue among counties and exercises oversight over national revenue allocated to county government. When you look really at this constitution, Senator, correct me if I'm wrong, the President could be right.
Well, the interpretation can go either way, and there will be a lot of debate on that. But what it says in Article 218 is that at least 2 months before the end of the financial year, there shall be introduced in Parliament the Division of Revenue Bill, and Parliament there means the 2 houses. So, in fact, that is how it happened. It first went to the National Assembly. The National Assembly determined that this is a matter which affects the county governments. And so, immediately you realize that a matter affects the county governments, then you must bring it to the Senate. And they did so with a memorandum from the Speaker. And when it came to us, we dealt with it as a matter of right and submitted back to the National Assembly an amendment, which it seems they rejected. Immediately after that, we should have gone to mediation. But to proceed and sign it into law is to ignore the Senate, which means, and this is what it means, that when it comes to determining how much the counties should get, the Senate, which is supposed to protect the counties, is not invited. When it comes to now allocating what has been given, then the Senate can now divide it between the counties. That is serious anomaly. It is like saying, we will kill the animal. We will, first of all, divide it ourselves, what you get, and then you can do whatever you like with your piece. That is not protecting the interests of the counties.
A very interesting interpretation, Senator, I must say. So this was not referred to a mediation committee. It was not taken back to the originating house for reconsideration. Does this then worry you about the relevance of the Senate when it comes to devolution and when it comes to revenue allocation?
Of course, it worries us, and that is why we are going for interpretation in the Supreme Court. And that is why the Senate has elected me as the new chairman to chair a committee that will deal with amendments to the Constitution that will put the Senate where it must be. That the Senate must be consulted on all revenue matters before it can be signed into law. We will make those amendments and we will go to the people to determine whether they should be part of the law or not, to make it clear that the Senate's job to protect the interests of the country includes debating with the national government on how we share the revenue.
All right, Homa Bay Senator Otieno Kajwang talking to us about the division of revenue bill that has now pitted the National Assembly and the Senate. Senator, thank you so much for joining us on KTN Prime.